Brad Williams, XL Prime.
What is XL Solver? Well, as I mentioned, GoalSeek is a single unit, single cell solution, whereas XL Solver can solve multiple scenarios under multiple situations concurrently. For example, let's say we have a hypothetical bike seat assembly, and we need to manufacture no more than 250 of these seats and no more than 200 B seats. B seat is optional. We need to produce 500 units or less based on, and this is a simple scenario. Usually we tie this to the materials available, but we just have units, but we can tie all this together using a format available in Solver. So let me just walk you through some of the cell solver requirements. First and foremost, this is not for everyone. This can frustrate you to no end. It either works for you and you're going to dive into it, or otherwise you're just going to go, no. But for those who say no, keep working at it. It's a challenge. Let me point out a few of the challenges. To open Solver, we're going to need to go to a different area within the data ribbon. If you go all the way to the right, under data analysis, you're going to see Solver. Just click it. Don't be intimidated by this. If this is a new problem, this will be empty. So I'll just open up a new worksheet and show you what this looks like. Here's a picture of Solver without any information. And let me just point out a few things. Before you dive into working with Solver, you have to ask yourself, what are we trying to resolve? What is the objective? Right here, the objective could be maximizing profit. It could be minimizing costs. How do you do that? You can minimize or maximize based on whatever criteria you're using. And what's that criteria based on? By changing variable cells. With Solver, you can change any number of cells, whereas with GoalSeek, you could only change one. Constraints, you set the constraints. We'll get into that in a second. You're going to get into some really complex stuff here, and I don't want you to get overwhelmed. We're going to set everything to Simplex LP and just leave it there. As you gain a little more experience, you can delve into the complexity of this calculating engine. This is your starting point, and I'm going to close this. I have an initial setup on the other worksheet. Let's go back to the worksheet, which is Solver. Here is that same situation. What you need to do is literally write out what you want. And here is our objective. The combined production capacity is 500 total units. Here's our total capacity. The company needs 250 units of seat A to fill an existing order. The company needs 200 units of seat B to fill an anticipated order. Bike seat C is not popular and will be limited to no more than 60. We need to translate that into numbers. The best way to do that is to write it out. Capacity is 500 units. We're going to say B7 is less than or equal to 500. That means capacity can't go over 500, but it can be less than 500. And then at least, and this is critical, at least 250 seats of seat A. That means no less than 250, but we can go above 250. At least 200 seats of seat B. That means B5 has to equal 200 or more. And then seat C can't be any greater than 60, but can be less. That's the criteria. Here, the profit units, this is a variable. And all we're doing is taking the output, whatever the engine calculates, will generate a profit up to a certain limit. And those limitations are what we set within the Solver solutions. So let's hit Solver without going overboard. I just want to keep this simple. Our objective, We want to maximize profit. That's our objective. So set objective would be D7. We want to hit minimum, and then we want to hit by changing variable cells. Well, what are the variable cells? They are the numbers here, 250, 200, seat C. These change based on what? Based on this criteria. And the criteria, if you wrote it out, you're just going to transfer that information over. How do you do that? You're going to hit add. The information's already here, but all you're going to do is hit add. You would go B7, and so you could go B7 is less than, and just follow this, less than equal to, and then just type in 500. Hit add. After that, you hit OK. If you want to add another, and here we're going to add 4, you would hit add. But since we already have that built in, we're going to cancel this. We're just going to look at this information. You're going to end up adding 4 of these constraints, as noted here. And you're going to see B4 is greater than equal to 250. Seat B, B5 is greater than equal to 200. Seat C is less than equal to 60. B7 is less than or equal to 500. We're going to make this unconstrained variables non-negative. Don't worry about that. Simplex LP, and we're just going to hit solve. And here, solver found a solution. All constraints and optimality conditions are satisfied. That's it. It cranked out this number. It changed it to 23,250. Let me just give you, we'll run another example. Now, if you want to keep this solution, you can hit OK, but we're going to hit cancel. Now we're going to go up here and we're going to change these numbers. We're going to hit 100, 150, 45. These are just random numbers. They can be any number you want. We'll go back to solver, hit solve, and just note these numbers, 100, 150, 45. Hit solve. It took a second. It changed those numbers. Remember it said 100, 150, 40? Well, here's the optimum number. Let's change them back. Let's go cancel. And you see, we have a profit here of 14,625 based on this criteria. This was what the manager was thinking, and then the CEO goes, no, you need to change this. The manager goes, well, based on these constraints, here's the new output. So you go back to solver, and here are the new constraints. The CEO goes, we're cranking up production or you're fired. The manager goes, all right, based on what you're asking, this is the new output. Solve. And you can see it went from 14 to 23. One simple click, and that took less than 5 seconds. You can also delve into reports. You can hit answer and hit OK. Okay, answer report 1. It's going to spit out this information. It's going to go original value 14,625, new value 23,250. We have the 100, 150, 45, but now it's 250, 250. The constraints are what you entered. Binding, 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 non-binding. That's not that critical to know. There's a nice little report here. You can go back to solver. You can go back and solve. You can hit solve. And we have sensitivity. Print out a sensitivity report and answers. And I'm holding down the control key this time. We can get 3 different reports. But since we have the answer report, we don't need this. Just hit OK. If you wait, it'll kick out the sensitivity report. Basically just says final value 250, 250, total final value, and then limits reports. Pretty much the same stuff. The more sophisticated the model becomes, the more you'll rely on this data. And to get rid of the data, just highlight the 3 cells, hold down your shift key, and then right click and hit delete. And it will delete that information. So that's it in a nutshell. I know it seems a little bit easy, but what I want you to do is just create this very simple hypothetical, go into solver, and see if it'll spit out some information. Change the variables, experiment with solver, and see if it's something that works for you. If I went a little too fast in the explanation, I'll just explain it again. Here we have, in this example, the target cell is D7. Let's see if I can do this. I'm going to have to just point here. Once I open up this solver, I'm going to want some activity here. See how it's pointing to F17? It's going to be D7 right here. Enter D7 in the set objective field. This is the set objective. And remember, this is supposed to be this number here. Because the objective is to maximize this cell, select the max option button. We should have had max. Specify the changing cells which are in the range B4 to B6 here, B4 to B6. We're going to say by changing variable cells. The constraints are added one at a time and appear in the subject to the constraints list. Here's the subject to the constraints. To add a constraint, click the add button. The add constraints dialog box shown in this example. This dialog box has three parts: a cell reference value. Hit add. We have a cell reference. We have this other constraint here, and then the middle constraint. To set the first constraint that the total production capacity is 500 units, enter B7. You can just go to B7. As I showed before, you can change the cell reference here, less than or equal to, and then you have these other choices. And then whatever the constraint is, 500. You don't want to just type that in. You're going to click add and enter the remaining constraints. After you've entered the last constraint, click OK to return to the solver diagram box back here. For the solving method, use Simplex LP, then click the solve button. That's it. Brad Williams, XL Prime, Williams out.